As Carolina Panthers general manager Scott Fitterer prepares for his third go-round in the NFL draft, I thought it was only right that I go back and I analyze his original 2021 draft and give grades to each one of his 11 picks, and we're going to get into that right after this.
From the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 1K. Trying to get this channel monetized now that that's out of the way. Let's go ahead and grade these draft picks. Now, as I mentioned before, this is the 2021 draft class, the first draft class that was drafted by our current general manager, Scott Fitterer, and we are going to go from the bottom of the draft to the top, starting with defensive tackle Phil Hoskins from Kentucky, who was taken in the 7th round, 232nd overall. Now, in 2 years with the Carolina Panthers, Hoskins has only been active for 8 games. He's totaled eight tackles and just 1 sack. He was actually waived and assigned to the practice squad on October 27th, and following that, he was actually cut and released from the team. So just 2 years into his career, he is no longer with the team. So with that being said, I have to go ahead and slap a easy draft grade on this of an F. Phil Hoskins was an immediate fail, and I cannot give this any higher than an F. So we move on to our 6th round, 222nd pick overall, Thomas Fletcher, the long snapper out of Alabama. Now, I'm not going to waste you all's time on this pick. I'm going to get right to it. This is a pure F. I don't know what the hell Scott Fitterer had going on in his mind. If you were going to use this pick to draft a long snapper, I would have rather you just traded it for a 5 in the next draft, or just traded it for any other pick rather than picking a long snapper. In 2 years since this guy has been drafted, he has not taken a single snap. J.J. Jansen continues to expand his time as the most snaps taken in a Carolina Panthers uniform, our current long snapper, and Scott Fitterer swung and missed, and this was a wasted draft pick. So Thomas Fletcher out of Bama, this is none other than a flat-out F. Now, moving on to our first of 2 6th-round picks, we have Shi Smith that was selected in the 6th round, 204th overall. Now, in 2 years with the Carolina Panthers, Shi Smith has been active for 23 of a possible 34 games, and in that time, he has started in 6 of those 24 games, having exactly, right on the nose at 400 receiving yards and 2 TDs. Now, with that being said, Shi Smith was one of the favorites of our former coach, Matt Rule, who me and many in Panthers Nation could not understand. But being able to get this guy in the 6th round and getting any type of production out of him in terms of being a positive on the offensive side of the ball where we've struggled, I have to be fair and say that this is a flat-out C. It isn't good, but it isn't bad in any way, shape, or form. As many of us that complain about Shi Smith, especially on the kick returns, we experienced what it was like when he wasn't out there. So he isn't the greatest, but he damn sure isn't the best. So Shi Smith, you get a C. Now, moving on to our second of the 6th-round picks in the 2021 draft, we have Deontay Brown. He was drafted 193rd overall out of Alabama, and as of right now, he is currently signed to a future or reserved contract with the Carolina Panthers. In 2 years, Deontay Brown has only appeared in 3 games, and he has pretty much been a no-show ever since he's heard his name called. So with that being said, I have to give this a D. This does go on to look like it was a wasted pick when you draft a guy that isn't even able to crack the roster. But with the team being able to give him enough grace to hand out a future contract, I guess they see something in him. So projecting forward, I'm not going to call it a flat-out failure yet, but it's the closest damn thing to it. So moving on from there, we have our first of our 2 5th-round picks. And if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this name right here. We have Keith Taylor Jr. He was drafted in the 5th round, 166 overall out of Washington. Now, in 2 years in the NFL. Keith Taylor has been active and played in all 34 of 34 possible games since he's hit the league. And in those 34 games, he has 0 interceptions, 6 pass deflections, and 67 total tackles. Now, what I want to bring your attention to is the fact that majority of those tackles were eclipsed because Keith Taylor is in fact a very effective special teams player. But when the 2022 season came around, there was a lot more pressure and a lot more asked of Keith Taylor. And when he was actually asked to go out there and play cornerback rather than just coverage team, he was one, if not the absolutely worst cornerback in the league. In 2021, he gave up a passer rating of 112.5. In 2022, which was this past season where he got a lot more action than he did in his rookie season, that passer rating that he allowed actually went up to 129, which is absolutely terrible. For context, a perfect passer rating is 158.3. This guy here was completely ass, so I have to go ahead and say that although I cannot give him an F, I have to give him a D because I believe he may be playing out of position, and he showed that he does not deserve to get snaps as an actual cornerback, but he has been an effective special teams player. So I cannot call this a flat out failure, but just like I said on the last guy, this is damn sure the closest thing to it. So Keith Taylor Jr. receives a D for his current draft grade, 2 years into his career. Now, moving on to our second or first, however you want to view it, of our fifth round picks in 2021, we have Davion Nixon, who was drafted 158th overall out of Iowa. Now, in 2 years with the Carolina Panthers, Davion Nixon has only gotten 15 total tackles, only 4 of those being solo, and only a half of a sack. So he has not shown any prowess to be a run stopper, a pass rusher, and he hasn't been able to break out into the overall rotation of pass rushers with the team. Since being signed, he has been relegated down to the practice squad and reactivated a total of 3 separate times before in October, not October, on December 13th, 2022, we actually released him for good and waived him for the team, and he was actually picked up by the Seattle Seahawks a week later, but subsequently he was cut from them just a short 7 days after that. To just add a little more fuel to the fire when it comes to Davion Nix, the Carolina Panthers actually released him on December 13th, which is in fact his birthday. So Panthers Twitter had a field day talking about that one. But in all objectivity, I have to go ahead and call it like I see it, call a spade a spade. This draft grade is unequivocally an F. There is nothing more or nothing less I can say about it. Davion Nixon has not been an impactful player on the team whatsoever, and he is no longer even on the team. So this, in 2 years, has to be seen as a flat-out failure. Now we have to move to our lone 4th round pick in 2021. We have running back Chuba Hubbard, who was selected 126 overall out of Oklahoma State. Now, in 2 years with the Carolina Panthers, his rookie year being where he got majority of the snaps following the injury to Christian McCaffrey, where a lot was asked of him, and moving into his 2022 season where he was actually able to be used in what is more of his natural dependent position, which is a dual threat backup running back that can be used in a stable. In 2 years in the NFL so far, Chuba Hubbard has been able to put up 1,078 rush yards and an additional 348 receiving yards and with 8 touchdowns total. Now, he has shown that he is very versatile and that he can be used in a myriad of ways. The only thing that I see that talks against or that speaks against Chuba Hubbard was the fact that we went out and we signed Deontay Foreman, that was just a free agent, a guy that was thinking about that he may nearly be out of the league, and we got much better production from him just signing him pretty much off the street, to the point where we have to look at Chuba Hubbard and say that we actually invested draft capital in him to actually only be able to come in and in 2 years in his career only be able to hold up the backup running back position. So although I believe that me as well as the rest of Panthers Nation has saw some good things out of Chuba Hubbard, I have not seen enough to necessarily justify why he can be more than just a C plus. I have to grant him the C plus. Necessarily moving forward, if I come back and I redraft it and I regrade this draft class next year after year 3, potentially he will have a seismic jump, and we will be having a completely different conversation about this. But as of now, sadly or not, I'm not sure how you feel hearing this actual grade, but I have to give Chuba Hubbard a C plus for what he has been able to do for my team so far. Now we have to move on to one of our 2 third-round picks that year, being Tommy Tremble, who was selected 83rd overall from Notre Dame. And so far, he has appeared or been active for 33 of 34 games in his young 2-year career, and he has started 15 of those games. Although availability and health have been on his side, his actual production has not necessarily been there. In 2 years, only receiving or only catching for 354 yards and 4 touchdowns. But speaking to his versatility, he does have a rushing touchdown as well because of his physical traits and his ability to run the ball. Now, Tommy Tremble has been relegated to the backup tight end position behind Ian Thomas, who received a contract extension in this past offseason, who is schemed up to be no more than a blocker under Ben McAdoo as of late, and we will see if that changes as we get a new offensive coordinator. But as of now, I cannot grade Tommy Tremble as anything higher than a C, because if I did anything higher than this, it would be going off strictly just what I think his potential could be and what he has shown. And if I graded anything lower, I feel as though that would be unfair, because he has not necessarily had the opportunity to show what he could do so far. So this has to be graded as a C for Mr. Tommy Tremble. Now, our second of our third round picks in that year, we have Brady Christensen, who was drafted 70th overall from BYU. Now, Brady Christensen did not have the greatest rookie year. He was not actually active, nor did he start very many games in his rookie year. Now, on the contrary to that, moving into 2022, where he was moved into the starting position, he did not miss a single snap for 17 weeks straight, or I guess I could say 16 straight games. He started and played 100% of the snaps all the way up into week 18, where he unfortunately got an injury that he is going to have to rehab throughout the offseason. But finding a lineman that can give you this type of production, that can step in there and be able to hold the fort down for 100% of the snaps in just about every single game you have, give up very few penalties, and be one of the highest graded linemen or highest graded players PFF wise on your team, Brady Christensen's draft has to be seen as a success. And with that being said, I have to say that with that, Brady Christensen is a B plus. He has been a great addition to the team. Now, if I would have done this a year ago, maybe I would have spoke different, similar to how I say some of these players can be better in the future, some of them may be worse. But as of right now, 2 years into his career, Brady Christensen in the third round looks like an absolute hit for Scott Fitterer, and I'm glad to have this guy on the team for the foreseeable future. Now, after that, we have to move into these last 2 guys, who were actually the first 2 guys that we drafted back in 2021. The second round pick being Terrace Marshall Jr., who was selected 59th overall from LSU. And he there's a lot of nuance that goes into how I feel about Terrace Marshall Jr. He has been active and appeared in 27 of 34 possible games in his 2 years. But in those 27 games, he's only caught 45 passes for a total of 628 yards. But what is a lot more damning is the fact that he has only found the end zone one time. The reason that I am a bit lenient on Terrace Marshall Jr. is because I saw the difference between his output and just the emphasis in which he was the emphasis that was placed on him in the offense when we had two different coaches. Matt Rule clearly prioritized and preferred Shi Smith over Terrace Marshall, who was clearly just a better receiver. When Steve Wilks got the keys and Ben McAdoo just started to cook a little bit more and get this guy a lot more involved, his numbers began to jump. But without a full season of a sample size, you have to see the restrictive numbers that they reflect that I'm speaking to you now. Now in 2022, his targets increased significantly, but it was not his overall yardage output that shows the overall potential for Terrace Marshall. The stat that jumps out at you the most is the fact that he averaged 17 and a half yards per catch. And if you were to project out his 12 games under Steve Wilks over an entire season, that would have been up around or over 20 yards per catch, just speaking to just how much big play potential that Terrace Marshall Jr. does have. So for that reason, I cannot give him a truly magnificent grade for having high potential, but for what he's shown me and what that I believe that I can fairly expect from him in the upcoming seasons, I have to give Terrace Marshall Jr. a B minus for what he's been able to do so far for my Carolina Panthers, man. And I promise this brings me to our final player, that being that guy, the Mamba, Big 8, Jaycee Horn, who was drafted in the first round, 9th overall for us back in 2021. Now, so far in 2022, which is what I'm going to focus on, Jaycee Horn only allowed 33 catches. And in 2 years, not even just 2 years, this year, he had 3 interceptions, 7 pass deflections, 53 yards, 2 tackles for loss, as well as a QB hit. That speaks to just how versatile this guy is at the cornerback position, and just how good of a weapon he could be for a competent defensive coordinator that is going to want to use him and place him and put him in place to be weaponized properly. So with that being said, man, he only allowed a overall passer rating when targeted of 62.4, which in fact, if he played with other competent players in the secondary, I believe would have been a lot lower. Now, the reason that I'm going to give Jaycee Horn the grade that I'm going to give him is because although he has shown that he in fact is an elite talent, he has not shown the durability and or the ability to just stay healthy to be able to be on the field. As I've mentioned with other players and their available time versus the amount of games possible for them playing, Jaycee Horn has only played in 16 of a possible 34 games, which is still not even a complete full one season by today's NFL standards. So although he is an elite talent, that elite talent doesn't do a damn thing for the team if it's always on the sideline. So although my guy is great, I have to say that Jaycee Horn and the drafting of Jaycee Horn has to be given no more than a B+. Do I expect this to improve in the future? You're damn right I do. But as of right now, if my guy can't stay on the field and I can't depend on him to be able to lock up a guy each and every week, I cannot give him an A, man. And with that being said, those are my grades for the 2021 draft, the first of Scott Fitterer. How do you think this draft class is playing out so far with the team in 2022 moving into 2023? Do you think any of these guys will be key pieces that will be around in the near future when we actually do reach prominence with this new team that I truly believe will be a problem in the near future. Whatever you all think about this breakdown and the grades, you leave your comments down below. And with that being said, I'm Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.